14th of February, 1943. 12 brand new F4U Corsairs flew their first combat mission over Bougainville. 8 Allied aircraft came back destroyed, including 2 of those Corsairs, for roughly 1 confirmed Japanese kill. 26 months later, on the 22nd of April 1945, 12 Corsair pilots of VMF 323 intercepted an 80-aircraft kamikaze raid over Okinawa. In 30 minutes, they shot down 24 3/4 enemy aircraft. They lost nobody. Same airframe, same 650 caliber guns, same inverted gull-wing. The Corsair that flew into that massacre in February 1943 and the Corsair that tore apart a kamikaze wave over Okinawa were functionally the same machine. What changed was everything the Marines had learned about how to use it and everything the Japanese had lost trying to stop it.
Before the Corsair, American pilots in the Pacific were dying by the rules of someone else's fight. The Solomons, mid-1942. Japanese air superiority over Guadalcanal and the surrounding island chain rested on a single aircraft, the Mitsubishi A6M0. It could outturn anything the Americans put in the sky. The Grumman F4F Wildcat was tough and the pilots were brave, but in a turning fight against the Zero, brave men died. The P-39 Airacobra and P-40 Warhawk fared no better. The Zero's design philosophy had traded everything: armor, self-sealing fuel tanks, structural integrity, for agility and range. And in the close-range, low-speed dogfights that defined the early Pacific War, that trade was winning. The best American answer was a tactic that conceded the fight entirely. Commander John Thatch's Thatch Weave, a paired scissor where 2 Wildcats covered each other's tails with crossfire, kept pilots alive, but it was fundamentally defensive.
Saburo Sakai, flying with the Tainan Air Group out of Rabaul, recorded what happened when Lieutenant Commander Tadashi Nakajima first ran into it over Guadalcanal in August 1942. He had no trouble in getting on the tail of an enemy fighter, but never had a chance to fire before the Grumman's teammate roared at him from the side.
Nakajima was raging when he got back to Rabaul. He had been forced to dive and run for safety. The weave worked, but the best thing American fighter pilots could say about their situation was that they had found a way to not die quite as fast. The Navy needed a fighter that did not have to run from the Zero, one that dictated the terms of every pass, every climb, every engagement. In June 1938, the Bureau of Aeronautics issued the request for proposal that would produce it. Rex Beisel, chief engineer at Chance Vought, started with the biggest air-cooled engine available, the 18-cylinder Pratt & Whitney R2800 Double Wasp, delivering 2,000 horsepower and spinning a 13-foot 4-inch Hamilton Standard propeller. That propeller was the problem. A conventional low wing would have needed landing gear so long the struts would snap on carrier landings. Beisel's solution became the Corsair's signature. He turned to aerodynamicist Alfred Cibola and asked, why don't they put a little bend in the wing where the landing gear attachment would be lower and the gear shorter? The inverted gull-wing gave propeller clearance with short, strong gear, and as a bonus, the bend created an ideal wing fuselage join angle that killed interference drag without fillets. What rolled out of Stratford, Connecticut was the philosophical opposite of the Zero. 60 to 70 miles per hour faster in level flight. It chose when to fight and when to break off. The Zero could not chase it in a dive, could not follow it in a climb, could not catch it in a straight line. 650 caliber Browning M2 machine guns carried 2,300 rounds, roughly 30 seconds of fire per gun. Against the Zero's unarmored airframe, a single deflection burst was enough. Corsair pilots reported Zeros igniting or coming apart from one pass, and where the Zero shattered under return fire, the Corsair absorbed it. Armor plate behind the pilot, self-sealing fuel tanks,
structural strength at roughly twice the Zero's weight. Marines came home with dozens of holes in their aircraft. The Zero's pilot did not come home. First Lieutenant Kenneth Walsh of VMF 124, a former enlisted aircraft mechanic who would become the first Corsair ace, distilled the doctrine in a sentence. The F4U could outperform a Zero in every aspect except slow speed maneuverability and slow speed rate of climb.
Therefore, you avoided getting slow when combating a Zero. What VMF 124 did with this advantage on their first combat mission was a disaster. That story, and what the Marines learned from it, is the hinge the entire Pacific Air War turned on. 14th of February, 1943, Henderson Field, Guadalcanal. 12 Corsairs of VMF 124 under Major William E. Jice joined P-38 Lightnings and P-40 Warhawks escorting PB-4Y Liberator bombers to Kahili Airfield on Bougainville. The pilots averaged 25 hours on type. They had an aircraft that could outrun and outclimb anything Japan had in the sky, and almost none of the experience to use it. Japanese fighters hit the formation and tore it apart. 2 Liberators went down, 4 P-38s, 2 P-40s, 2 Corsairs. One of them, flown by 2nd Lieutenant Gordon Lyon, Jr., killed in a mid-air collision with a Zero. Total Allied losses, 8 aircraft. Confirmed Japanese losses,
Roughly 1. The press never named it. The Marines called it the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. Daylight raids on Bougainville were suspended until July, but the Marines did something with that failure that changed everything. They took the Corsair apart, not mechanically, but doctrinally. They rebuilt their tactics around what the airframe could do: speed, dive, vertical energy, not what it couldn't. The lesson Walsh had already articulated became physical law: never get slow. The Corsair's advantage existed only at high speed. Pilots who bled airspeed trying to turn with a Zero died the same way Wildcat pilots had. The airframe was the answer only if the doctrine matched. 6 months later, the doctrine had taken hold.
On the 30th of August, 1943, Walsh's engine failed over Munda. He put the Corsair down on the captured field, commandeered another F4U, and rejoined the bomber formation, only to find himself alone against approximately 50 A6M Zeros. His Medal of Honor citation carries the rest. He unhesitatingly attacked, striking with relentless fury in his lone battle against a powerful force.
He destroyed 4 hostile fighters before cannon shellfire forced him to make a dead stick landing off Vella La Vella. Walsh finished the war with 21 confirmed kills and 7 distinguished flying crosses. Then came the run that no pilot in the Pacific matched. First Lieutenant Robert Hansen, VMF 215. Born to Methodist missionaries in Lucknow, India, between the 14th and 30th of January 1944, 6 combat flights over 13 days, Hansen shot down 20 Japanese aircraft over Rabaul. On the 18th of January, roughly 70 Zeros swarmed above Simpson Harbor. Hansen claimed 5. On the 24th, 4 more. His total stood at 25. On the 3rd of February, 1 day before his 24th birthday, his Corsair took anti-aircraft fire while strafing the Cape St. George Lighthouse on New Ireland, likely a Japanese early warning radar station, which would explain the disproportionate flak defense. The aircraft cartwheeled into the sea. Posthumous Medal of Honor. He had been alive 17 days after his 20th kill. He did not see 24. Now, the title of this video. The claim that Japanese pilots were ordered never to dogfight the Corsair. No surviving Japanese directive, captured document, or veteran memoir supports it.
Tetsuzo Iwamoto, one of Japan's highest-scoring aces, recorded routine Corsair engagements in his combat diary over Rabaul through February 1944. The same skies where Hansen was killing 5 in a single sortie. Captain Minoru Genda, commanding the elite 343rd Kokutai and its Kawanishi N1K2J Shidenkai fighters, assessed post-war that the Shidenkai was equal to the American F-6F Hellcat and F4U Corsair, given equally trained pilots. Japanese command did not single the Corsair out.
Okumiya and Horikoshi, in their landmark book Zero, grouped the new Lightning, Hellcat, and Corsair fighters together as the cause of the Zero's fall. The Corsair was feared, but no more uniquely than the Hellcat or the late-war Lightning. And Whistling Death? Time magazine coined it in October 1943, attributing the name to the Japanese without citing a single Japanese source. Michael John Claringbold's 2022 Osprey volume confirmed what Japanese intelligence files actually called the F4U, the Sikorsky, Shikoruski, after the Vought Sikorsky corporate name. The whistle was real. Air rushing through the wing root oil cooler intakes at speed produced a keening shriek audible from the ground. The Japanese authorship was not. The Americans got the better nickname. The Japanese got the casualty list.
The ordered never to dogfight claim is almost certainly a folk-in version of the real American doctrine. General Claire Chennault's 1941 rule for the Flying Tigers: never dogfight the Zero. The truth ran the other direction, and the truth is more interesting. The Corsair had real flaws the myth never mentions. Pilots called it the Ensign Eliminator. 144 training accidents at MCAS Mojave alone. The long nose blocked the pilot's view of the landing signal officer on approach. The left wing stalled before the right at low speed, prone to dropping a wingtip with fatal results. The Navy's solution was blunt. Give the Corsair to the Marines for land-based use and put the F-6F Hellcat on carrier decks. It was the Royal Navy's Fleet Air Arm, raising the pilot's seat, clipping the wingtips, and adopting a curving approach that kept the deck visible past the nose, that solved the carrier landing problem the Americans had walked away from.
The Corsair flew in Korea. Captain Jesse Fulmer of VMA 312, flying an F4U-4B off USS Sicily on the 10th of September 1952, put 20mm cannon fire into a MiG-15 and watched it go down, then was shot down himself by 4 more MiGs and fished from the Taedong River 8 minutes later. The only confirmed piston engine kill against a jet in the entire war. And on the 17th of July, 1969, Honduras versus El Salvador in the football war, Captain Fernando Soto climbed into F4U-5 NFA H609 and shot down a Mustang and 2 Corsairs in the same afternoon. The last propeller-driven air-to-air combat in history. FA H609 sits today in the Museo del Aire in Tegucigalpa. 3 white kill silhouettes still painted on its fuselage. 64,051 sorties. 2,140 claimed aerial victories. 189 losses to enemy aircraft. 11.3 to 1. But what the numbers measure is not just an airframe. It is what happened when American engineering, American doctrine, and American pilots met a Japanese aviation force that was burning through its best men faster than it could replace them. The Corsair did not win because the enemy was afraid of it. It won because the enemy could not answer it. The whistle was real. The fear was real. The order was myth. The kill ratio was not.